I am live. I think I'm live. There we go. All right. On Instagram Live. On Facebook Live of Deep Dish Football page. Make sure you're following Coach Big Pete, Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you're wondering what the hell am I doing on here when it's not 7 o'clock, new times. Deep Dish Football Live will be at 6 p.m. this week, next week. 4:30 starting the playoff schedule. There'll be a whole brand new broadcast playoff schedule just to make sure everyone knows that. Breakfast with Coach Big Pete will be this Saturday, 9 a.m. This will actually be the last Breakfast with Coach Big Pete at 9 a.m. Week 9, it's going to be a cluster F. There's a lot of work to be done. So Breakfast with Coach Big Pete will be on midnight of that Friday going into Saturday for Week 9. So just a quick warning. Also, Deep Dish Football DeepDishFootball.com IHSA Playoff Pairing Show will be happening. 6th annual IHSA Playoff Pairing Show in 2 weeks. Going to be talking IHSA playoff teams and all that. Going to do a pre-show and then 8 p.m. Switch over to the U if you're in the Chicagoland area or the NFF, NFHS, or whatever it is. 7 at the 8 p.m. when the pairings are released, and then I'll be back at 9:30 on live as well, talking about some of the pairings as well. Again, quick reminder: Friday. As always, give me the big game stats if you want to nominate your player for Deep Dish Football Player of the Night in the state of Illinois. I need those stats. DM me, tweet at me, email me, CoachBigPeteFP@gmail.com, or email me again, CoachBigPeteFP@gmail.com. Follow Coach Big Pete, Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, and with stats too. Saturday, again, I need those stats for the conclusion article this week. By midnight Sunday, make sure I have all your stats. Again, send me the stats. If you want to nominate your player for Deep Dish Football Player of the Night, State of Illinois, send me those big game stats. I need by midnight before Saturday, I'm sorry. And the Hog unit, offensive line unit in the State of Illinois, top offensive line unit, send me those stats as well, and the names of the players too. All right, so we get into all that crap is gone now that I had to talk about and everything else. And again, if you like my work, feel free to leave a tip/donation via PayPal link, VENMO link below on the Facebook page. And again, if you're on Facebook and you want to ask a question on the Deep Dish Football Facebook page. I can't see it on the Coach Big P page because I'm currently right now on the Deep Dish Football page. So just a quick reminder. Instagram Live, go crazy. So we got Deep Dish, the big game in the state of Illinois. Chicago, 2 undefeated teams in Morgan Park and Simeon. Simeon, again, they got some bruising linemen. Morgan Park got some nice athletic players too. Again, this is going to be a game of very interesting spots, especially with Coach CJ James, who has done a wonderful job with this Morgan Park crew. This is definitely a big dog game in the Chicago land and Illinois area. Deep Dish Football game of the week: Glenbard East versus Glenbard South. And Glenbard East again, unbelievable defensive line. Big dog defensive line taking on the Glenbard South explosive offense. Cam Williams, Michael Champagne, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Illinois. Jalen Brown, who's another top recruit. Owen DeFranco, who's a hell of a defensive end for Glenbard South. Another player you got to check out: Owen Gibson, Alex Ortiz. This is going to be a great game, and it's going to be basically a chess match. It's honestly going to be a chess match between Coach Chrissy and Coach Walters. Definitely a game you got to check out. Final comments coming tomorrow on this game. Dixon versus Bryan. Dixon looking good after a tough loss. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Bryan only has one loss. Definitely a big game that you got to check out for. DGN versus OPRF. DGN. Peoria versus Normal West. Peoria, again, undefeated, just absolutely killing it. They're my number one team. Normal West has only one loss. Defense. It's going to be a battle of defense. The movable object versus the what's the phrase? The movable object versus the force or whatever. It's going to be a big time game. Normal West again. Unbelievable. Camp, their wide receiver, Gavin Camp is another player you got to keep an eye out for. Normal West Peoria. Gino Geist, he's having a hell of a game. And again, trying to see what's going on. But again, it's going to be a big game. That Peoria offense is just absolutely smothering. And again, Gino Geist, Malachi Washington, he's having a hell of a game too. QT, the wide receiver, Webb, he's another big-time player too. This is going to be a big, important game, especially in the state of Illinois. Carmi White versus Johnson City, both teams undefeated. In the Black Diamond Conference, Carmi White, Isaac, who I saw for last Friday night, a little bit of his film, was one hell of a player. And Isaac, he's that type of small school special player that he's going to do some damage. So Johnson City better look out. So this is going to be an interesting game as Carmi White takes on Johnson City. Shelbyville versus St. Teresa. Shelbyville undefeated. St. Teresa undefeated. Something's got to give. It's a good rivalry game too. And again, St. Teresa looking good in that 2A division. And again, you get for the 2A, you got them, Merrill, Forsyth, Wilmington. We'll see what happens. Should be big. Who the fuck is this? Trying to find some stuff. St. Charles North versus Glenbard North. Glenbard North looking good after the big win that they had last week. They needed that win. St. Charles North, they're still being number one in the Duquesne right now. It's going to be an interesting game again, especially with Plum heating up at Glenbard North defense. And again, problem with Glenbard North is their turnovers. We got to see what happens with that. That's going to be huge for them. We got a question. What team do you think could beat Mount Carmel? 7A. It's going to be tough. That's all I got to say. That's going to be tough. No doubt about that. Eureka versus Tri-Valley. Eureka comes off after the first loss to Ridgeview, Lexington. Tri-Valley, good, solid defense. Eureka's offense, we'll see what happens. Eureka's defense was doing good for the past 6 weeks. Again, they held one team to one touchdown. That was week 1. Then last week they ended up going in the thing against Ridgeview, Lexington. Tolino Unity versus Paxton Buckley Loda. Another big-time game. Tolino Unity is also ranked with Paxton Buckley Loda. Definitely a big-time game up there. Rochelle versus Plano. And I know I'm going quick, but I got to keep going fast. Sorry about that. Rochelle versus Plano. Again, Rochelle's looking good. Gaston Ginsler, he is having a hell of a season with the Rochelle Hubs. Plano, Wally Johnson is a kid that you must know about. St. Francis versus Riverside Brookfield. Riverside Brookfield gets absolutely smashed last week by IC. Can they get an upset win over a tough St. Francis team? We will see. Hershey versus Elk Grove. Elk Grove's only got one loss. Hershey undefeated. Colton Gamino is absolutely having a hell of a season. Elk Grove, good, solid defense for like what I saw from Elk Grove. And again, it's going to be an interesting game, especially with the Grenier offense against that Hershey defense. Belvedere North versus Harlem. Harlem needs a win. Belvedere North is undefeated. Their coach got the coach of the night last week. Belvedere North, again, very impressive win against Hano last week. Continuously undefeated. Definitely a team that you must know about, especially with Winters, and I forgot the other player. It's killing me. I'm sorry about that. Olympia versus Auburn. Auburn, good offensive line. Trayshawn Lancaster. Olympia, another good offensive line with Haley. It's going to be a hell of a game. It's going to be basically a smash mouth game. Olympia versus Auburn. That's a game that you must keep an eye out for. North Mac versus Pana. North Mac, undefeated right now. Pana, I believe they only have one loss. Pana's Max Lynch absolutely killing it. He's having a hell of a season. This is a kid that you must know, quarterback Max Lynch out of Pana. He's a little bit of an athlete too. He's definitely a recruit that you need to know about. Manuka versus Yorkville. Manuka gets their got a loss against Plainfield North in a tough fought game by a point. Yorkville, again, looking very strong. Coach McGuire's got these Foxes ready for the playoffs. We will see what happens. Again, Manuka, and again, I said the biggest key will be Dooley at quarterback. East St. Louis versus Edwardsville. East St. Louis. Edwardsville. Can Edwardsville get the big upset? Can they get the upset? That's going to be the huge question with the Edwardsville team. And again, this Edwardsville team is young. They've got a junior quarterback. We'll see what happens. Again, they got a good passing attack, too. We'll see. Again, the big thing will be that secondary against East St. Louis's wide receivers. And can they get pressure on quarterback battle of East St. Louis? That's going to be a big-time question. Lions versus Glenbard West. Lions. It's going to be a tough thing because after Glenbard West lost to York, they're playing with fire under their ass. This is going to be a big-time game in that West Suburban Conference. And again, as always, what the big thing will be with Lions' passing attack against Glenbard West and Jackson as their quarterback alliance. So see if he has a big game against this Glenbard West defense. Moline versus Sterling. Again, Moline put over 500 yards last week. Sterling's defense is stifling. This is going to be a great game. Antonio Taliban, Kale Ryan's having a hell of a season back from injury last season. This Sterling squad is a very good group of kids. Very good, great talented group of players against a Moline team that's looking good. And again, they're running the ball. That's scary. That's very scary. Chicago Hope versus De La Salle. This is a big one because De La Salle is a lot bigger school going against a Chicago Hope Academy school that's independent, that's undefeated. And again, the big thing will be with Chicago Hope is will be the defense of Chicago Hope. Can they compete against that De La Salle offense? Centennial versus Collinsville. Centennial is undefeated. I believe Collinsville only has one loss, if I'm not mistaken. Big time game in Centennial. And again, Centennial has been impressive this whole season. A lot of people thought that they weren't going to be as good as they were last season. They thought last season that was their magical season. This season, Centennial has proved them all wrong. Coach Jackson has done a wonderful job with Centennial. Collinsville, very impressive athletes and a good solid offensive line. Centennial, again, defense, close off the gaps. That's going to be huge against Collinsville. Nazareth versus Montini is a big game because it's a game of we can't lose because we don't want to hear any bitching from the alumni. That's the big game, Nazareth versus Montini. Both teams, if I'm not mistaken, had 3 wins. And again, Nazareth beat Carmel. They beat Kankakee. They lost to St. Rita. Montini, they lost to IC. They lost to, I'm trying to think. After Nazareth, they got another tough game. I'm trying to think. They lost to Marist last week. So again, this is going to be a big time game of let's not get the alumni pissed off at us. That's the name of the game. Nazareth versus Montini. Bennett versus Juliet Catholic. Can Bennett get the big win over a Juliet Catholic team that lost in overtime against the Brother Rice team? Will be very interesting to see how Bennett's defense reacts against that run offense of Juliet Catholic. That'll be the big name of the game. Can we stop him? Big shout out to my guy, 23K Visuals. He does a great podcast on Instagram. Check him out, 23K Visuals. The guy's awesome, honestly. Check him out, 23K Visuals. And he does wonderful jobs editing film. Has a great podcast on Sunday at 7:30. Check it out, 23K Visuals. Check him out on Instagram. He's also on Twitter, too. He does a wonderful job. St. Rita versus Providence Catholic. Again, Providence Catholic, they lost to Loyola Academy, but they fought. And that's the most important thing. That's what you want to see from the team. St. Rita, they're getting their mojo back. And again, it started with that Nazareth game. Definitely, DJ Stewart, he's on fire. That offensive line will knock you on your ass. That defensive line, Farrell, I'm forgetting there's another defensive tackle like Mahoney. He's a junior or senior. He is a little pit bull. He'll knock you on your ass. He gets to the ball. Good job. But this St. Rita team, I'm telling you right now, I'll say it again and I'll get in trouble for it. Because they got in trouble for it after they lost to, I think it was Loyola Academy. They got their second loss when I I still think St. Rita, you can't sleep on St. Rita. You honestly can't sleep on St. Rita when you get into the playoffs. Carmel versus Marist. Can this Carmel team beat a tough Marist team that showed something last week? They showed me something that I haven't seen this whole season. I was very impressed with Marist. Even though they lost, very impressed with what they were able to do. Carmel is definitely an interesting team. Carmel, good youth. We'll see what happens. They're going to go to the playoffs. This Carmel Corsair team is a team that you must know, and a great, massive offensive line. So definitely thing you got to check out. So you're going to take a look at that offensive line versus Mel from Marist. He beats your ass like it's nobody's business. He gets to the quarterback. He's a quarterback nightmare. Next, Greenfield versus Brown County. Big WIVC battle. And again, I really like Greenfield. Brown County, I'm not high on this season. And again, keep in that area. Keep an eye out for Camp Point Central. Also, Reed Custer. I'm sorry, I forgot one game. Reed Custer versus Coal City. How can I forget Reed Custer versus Coal City? The big rivalry game that a lot of people go to see. I think it's been decades now. That game's been a rivalry game. Reed Custer is on fire. Coal City is catching fire. You talk about a big-time game. Defense of Coal City. Can they put a stop to this common offense? We will see what happens. Can Coach Loughran stop that Gavin Johnson defense? Jacob McPherson is on fire. We'll see what happens. And again, this week has been on. There's not that many games, but again, this is the week where we start getting some upsets. We start getting some big upsets this week, like we do every year, because teams are paying too much attention to playoff points and they're not paying attention to winning the game. That's the problem. You're going to see a lot of weirdness happen where, again, the problem is, and it's not just the players, it's the coaches that are looking at playoff points. They figure, hey, this week we're going to chalk it off. We're going to chalk it off as a loss, and next week we're going to win it and we're going to get into the playoffs. That's not how it works. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't work, and you get upset this week, and the week after, and you ended up looking like a jackass. It happened to me when I was coaching at Westmont. It happens to a lot of coaches, and again, the big thing is don't pay attention to playoff points. Pay attention to wins. That's the most important thing. I know it sounds really stupid and a little bit arcanic, but that's the truth. You have a lot of kids that pay attention to playoff points. Oh, we're going to go to this class. We're going to go to that class. And they end up getting upset the final 2 weeks. Or the wins that they think that are going to be the easiest at the end ends up biting them in the ass. Do you know what the scariest thing is? The scariest thing in high school football is a team that knows that they're not going to the playoffs, and there's a shitload of seniors that are going to play their butts off for the next final 2 weeks, and they want to make your life a living hell. That's the scariest team. You don't want to play against the team that doesn't have anything to do with the off season. That's the scariest thing. So that's just one little thing I like to mention. All right. So we get into 2 questions. Did you see the Kankakee rule? Stephen Chow from Naperville. Yes, I did see the Kankakee athletics rule of 24 hours after a game. Parents can talk to coaches after 24 hours. If I'm not mistaken, hopefully I got that rule correct. I like it about starting and all that other stuff. Again, the biggest killer in youth sports right now are adults, and that's including me. That's all adults. We are the biggest killer in youth sports. We literally are killing it. That's one of the biggest problems. And you have a lot of parents that they just don't understand, and they're willing to put a blowtorch to team success. They don't care about the team; they just care about the kid, and it's selfishness. And I've seen parents get angry over a pasta dish of 2 moms. One mom brought the same pasta dish as the other mom. She got angry, so she took a blowtorch. She launched her social media raid on other players and players' moms. And the team that was supposed to, I think the team was at that time was 4-3. They ended up losing because the mom just literally, she blew up everything. She made everyone's life a living hell. that happens. And you got a lot of parents that literally, if it's my son or I'm going to take this team down to hell, the depths of hell with me. And you see that. You see the parents go on the forums. You see the fake Twitter burner accounts, the fake Instagram accounts. And if their kid's not starting, their kid's a star. Their kid's a 5'8", next Jonathan Ogden offensive tackle, and he's 5'8". And the kid's not starting, they get angry. And they'll burn it down to the ground if they don't get their way. And you see a lot of it. And it's quite sad. It really is quite sad. And I'm not going to do one of those. Well, back in my day, that's when the stuff started happening. 2099, that's when this parents being just absolute ass clowns started really, really happening. It got more serious. And it's getting bad. It's getting really bad. You have to remind that these are kids. This is a game for the kids. This is a game not for you parents. And you have a lot of parents that want to live their lives through kids. That doesn't work. And you have parents that hold grudges. If their kid doesn't get a Division I offer, that doesn't work either. And yeah, that's about it. All right, make sure you follow Coach Big Pete, Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. My email is coachbigpetefp@gmail.com. If you're watching Instagram Live, I'm going to be on DuPage Run and Shoot Show with my co-host at 8 p.m. with my co-host Patrick Codo. Facebook, DuPage Run and Shoot Show coming out tomorrow morning. We're doing it early. Everything will be on Wednesday, this week, and next week. Watch out for the schedule, for the broadcast schedule. Breakfast with Coach Big Pete is moved to Sunday, starting after the round 1 games. So check out the schedule. A commercial for the IHSA pairings is on YouTube as well. Check it out too. If you like my work, feel free to leave a tip / donation via VENMO PayPal link below. And again, my email is coachbigpetefp@gmail.com. Recruits, still taking info. Deep Dish Football recruiting questionnaire on deepdishfootball.com. Class of 2026, I'm taking your info now. Make sure I have your info. Breakfast with Coach Big Pete, 9 a.m. this Saturday. And again, I need those stats. Any big game stats you want to nominate your kid, player, or that for Deep Dish Football Player of the Night in the state of Illinois, please send me the stats. And then again, Sunday conclusion article. I need those stats by Sunday midnight so I can finish up my Sunday conclusion article. And that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, Deep Dish Football Live next week will be at 6 p.m. Hell Week begins for me next week as we get into coverage and all that other stuff. Thank you guys so much for joining. And I will see you guys Saturday, 9 a.m. Sorry.